so there's guys like Bobby Lashley, Brock Lesnar, Matt Riddle that have crossed the lines. So you would never do that. You would never get into pro wrestling, you think?
If I'm going to get a concussion and my neck messed up and slammed on the ground, it's because I'm going to have the opportunity to hurt you. Like I'm not going to let you slam me for fun. If you're going to slam me, if you're going to knock me out, if you're going to hurt me, it's because you earned it.
You're listening to the premier podcast for men who want to not only be better with women, but want to be better men in general. This is the Come On Man podcast. And here's your host, Paul Bauer.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another week of Come On Man. If you haven't done so already, please like, fave, subscribe, hit those notifications. If you are listening on your favorite audio platform of choice, please give us a 5-star review and write out why you like the show. I mentioned last week that I'm going to start reading those reviews. So if you want to shout out and you don't want to join the Patreon, that's a good way of doing it, because doesn't cost you anything, right? Just takes like a minute or two out of your day to give me a 5-star review and write out why you like the show. Those 5-star reviews actually helps boosts the show in the algorithm, and for whatever reason the Apple iTunes algorithm is the only one that matters. So if you don't listen on Apple and you only listen on like Spotify or whatever, that's fine too. The 5-star reviews help there, but I'm only going to be reading the Apple reviews. Because that's the only one that matters as far as like algorithm goes. It's kind of weird. So yeah, please do that. If you are watching on YouTube, please drop a comment. Any comment will do. You can talk about my cowboy shirt. You can talk about my bald head. I don't care. Just whatever. Drop an emoji. Whatever, man. All that kind of stuff boosts us in the algorithm on YouTube, gets us in front of more men. I already mentioned the Patreon. So quick shout out to the Patreon. Visit patreon.com/comeonmanpod. There's 5 tiers available. The lowest tier is only $5. That helps support the show. It's about the price of a cup of coffee at Starbucks or whatever. It's the least you can do. Like I said, there's 5 tiers available though. So the top 3 tiers, you can sign up, get, texting advice from me. You can do one-on-one calls with me. For whatever you want to talk about. If you want to get better with women, if you want some help with, I don't know, career, whatever. If you just want to talk about books, if you want to have like basically a one-on-one book club with me, whatever you want. Like the 3 tiers aren't necessarily for, coaching or whatever. It could be literally you just want to hang out and have some drinks and have a dude that you can talk to. Maybe you're in a relationship and you don't have any male friends around or whatever, and you just need a dude that you can talk to about dude stuff. Like Patreon's perfect for that. And you get a shout out, depending on what tier you get shout outs with that. So, you can do the 5-star review thing on iTunes, or you can join the Patreon. Also, one thing I want you guys to do is sign up for the email list. I'm not spamming people. I'm really just doing this in case I get deplatformed on, TikTok again, or, Instagram or whatever. And then when you sign up for that, you get a free sticker. This is one of them, the red pilled. And another one that I like is the not a nice guy sticker. You get those for free. Postage paid, whatever, just sign up for the email list, and then I will email you and say, hey, give me a good mailing address and I'll mail those out. And I am actually the one putting the stamps on the envelopes. It's me. I don't have an assistant. I have like a whole entourage of people back here. It's actually me. So get on the email list. I'll send you some cool stickers. All right. Joining me this week is a really special guest. He's a former MMA fighter. He's had professional fights in the UFC, the PFL, Bellator. He was a welterweight champion. He's John Fitch. You probably know him. He's a Rule Zero panelist. He's a really good dude. We talk about his time in MMA. We talk about how there's no such thing as a true world champion in MMA. They're all promotional champions, right? If it was a true world champion, the UFC's champions would be able to fight Bellator's champions, or they'd be able to fight PFL's champions, right? And then you'd be able to collect belts. You'd be able to be a true belt collector if you were really doing world titles, but it's not. We talk about how basically the MMA is a lot like pro wrestling. Promotional titles, basically the owners pick and choose their winners. They choose who they're going to put in that championship spot. It's not all about who's the best fighter. It's fascinating. That whole thing like blew my mind. So that conversation is really interesting. We talk about, his professional career. We talk about pro wrestling a little bit. He's not really a fan of pro wrestling, so that's kind of a fun thing to talk about. We talk about, grappling versus, stand-up martial arts. We talk about, when I was in karate and the martial arts I've trained in. Man, just a real fun episode. Jon's actually a really good dude, really down to earth. I like him a lot. And I'm going to bring you that conversation right after these words. Hey, you, I'm going to make this real quick. I know you hate ads. If you like this show, if you love this podcast, if you think more men should tune in, then you should consider joining my Patreon. You will be supporting the show, and I get to help more men level up their lives. There's now 5 tiers available, starting as low as $5 a month. It's like buying me a beer, and each tier gives you better bonuses. Visit patreon.com/comeonmanpod to sign up. That's patreon.com/comeonmanpod. One last time, that's patreon.com/comeonmanpod. Help me help more men level up and be better with women. All right, joining me this week is a very special guest. He's a former MMA fighter who has had professional fights in the UFC, the PFL, and Bellator, and was even once a welterweight champion. Now you can find him in the manosphere as the resident, what's that?
Four-time.
Fuck Wikipedia, man. All right, we'll talk about that here in a second. Okay. Yeah. But he's got me all fucked up here. So now you can find him in the manosphere as the resident fighting expert. It's Jon Fitch. What's going on, man? It's great to have you here.
Nothing much. I'm good. I'm good. I'm happy to be here. And I'm in this space because I started following around the manosphere stuff because I was going through a divorce, whatever, and I found Ed Lattimore, I found all these guys, AG Cortez, and then that spiraled into more people. I even went to a 21 convention at one point, and then I found Ryan Stone and Jon, Modern Life Dating Jon, and Rolo, and like one of the main themes that I kept hearing over and over and over and over again about the manosphere stuff was you need to learn a martial art, you need to train some kind of combat skill. Mm-hmm. And I was like, hey, there's absolutely nobody in this space who's actually teaching those combat skills. So I was like, there's a void in what's necessary for these guys. So I'll step in and help out.
Gotcha. Okay. So were you in the original 21 convention, like debacle,
no,
or was that after?
Invited.
Or?
I got invited a while. This is like 2018, 19, maybe. I got invited to go to one of the shows, and I got to meet some of these guys in person, and it was a good experience. And I really like the idea of, a men's space where men can come together and just talk like guys without having to like walk on eggshells because sensitive women were around. Right.
Yeah. I mean, like I know all the dirt, and I try to stay out of it. But I have had all you guys from Rule Zero on my show, and I really like the stuff that you guys put out. And I think that, the stuff that the 21 convention guys put out, a lot of it is trash nowadays. It's a lot of trash to sort of build up their following, which, it's kind of unfortunate that they feel like that they have to do that. But I mean, it's a good idea. Yeah. It's a good idea though, right? To have sort of like a TED Talks for men.
Yeah.
If someone else could do something like that.
We used to have male spaces, we used to have the lodge, or we used to have the club, or the wrestling room, or the fight room, or the gym, or whatever. We had our spaces, but now you have to include everybody. So like they forced women into all those spaces. They still have women's spaces where women can be completely away from men and not have men around, and they can talk about whatever they want to. And that's good. That's good. It's helpful. They need it. But like we're demonized for it. We're not allowed to do that. We're bad guys.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. my dad used to say this all the time back in the 80s. There was always these like men's clubs, and there was all these like feminists that were suing the men's groups, trying to get access to these men's clubs. And then they got access, and it was just like, okay, now what? But you never saw men trying to get access to, like, the knitting groups and stuff. So it's
well, I mean, yeah, but then again, you also have men just trying to be women now too.
Yeah. That's a whole other subject, it's
a whole other show.
So John, so growing up, I begged my parents to put me in karate because I loved Chuck Norris and Van Damme movies, and they finally put me in a karate
Blood
school.
Sport, bro. Sport.
Dude,
I saw that movie.
Yeah,
I saw that movie, and I was like, "That's what I want to do."
Is that how you got into it?
Fighting wasn't a thing, like it wasn't a career path. It's something I kind of stumbled into, but like I always thought, man, that's awesome. I mean, whatever Rambo that was when he was like stick fighting, whatever.
Rambo 3.
Yeah, and the guy had to come get him. I was like, oh, that's awesome. You can do that? You could just go to some third world country and fight people for money and food? I was like, that sounds fun.
Did you know that in Bloodsport's based on a true story of Frank Dukes,
true story. Yeah.
Yeah, did you know Frank Dukes is a total fraud though?
Oh, total fraud. 100%. Made up. Great storyteller. Frank Dukes is.
Yeah. Have you ever met him or?
I have not met him, but there's a lot of stories. There were some early stories, especially when the internet was kind of new in the 2000s. And because that's when, because there's a lot of fake black belts and fake martial arts out there, tons of them.
Yeah.
I think McDojo Life is a Instagram account that has a lot of followings, and they always show these guys these days. They're still around, which is crazy to me because I thought they were all eradicated in the 2000s because people started going to the gyms. People started going to these fake black belts and these fake martial artists and like challenging them. And that was one of the things was people started filming and confronting Frank Dukes on his bullshit.
Yeah. Got it. Okay. I bought a book back in like the 90s, and it was a book on like ninjutsu or something like that. And it turned out that, I think it was written or published by Paladin Press or something like that. And the guy who wrote that book was a total fraud. I saw a YouTube video exposing that guy.
When I was a kid, I would go to the supermarket with my mom, and when she would shop, I would go sit down in the magazine section. I would just sit down there because there were some comic books there, and there was the Black Belt magazine.
Mm-hmm.
So I would go and I would read everything in the back magazine, and then I would go to the back, and they had all the like the ninja supplies and things that you could order.
Yeah,
nunchucks and vanishing powders and all kinds of stuff, man. And there was always advertisements with like Gene LaBelle had some kind of like stick fighting whatever thing going on. And if you don't know anything about Gene LaBelle, look up Gene LaBelle. He passed away recently. Mm-hmm. He's a godfather of American martial arts, really. Like he's done a lot of stunt work. He actually is one of the first MMA televised fights. He went to Japan, and it was judo versus boxing or something. Beat the crap out of the guy.
Yeah.
There's a famous story about Gene LaBelle choking out who's the Aikido guy?
The actor you're talking about, Steven Seagal.
Steven Seagal. There's a story about him choking out Steven Seagal, and Steven Seagal shitting his pants.
Didn't Gene LaBelle? Didn't he do pro wrestling too for a little bit?
I think, yeah. He's look like that guy. Hopefully there's some books out there or something, or somebody needs to write autobiography about him because he's got an amazing story. He was also a key turn coach, like Carl Parisian was a UFC fighter back in the day. He was trained by Gene LaBelle. Like he's had his fingers in a lot of martial arts stuff in the US behind the scenes. And he's in a lot of movies. He's in a ton of movies as an extra. You can just see a glimpse of him, like in the back every once in a while, going through a window or something.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So go back to my story about karate. So I got into it because of those movies and stuff like that. And you said it sounds like you basically had the same idea. Did you do martial arts young, or did you start with wrestling? Because I started with wrestling because we didn't really have anything around. I was in Indiana. There wasn't a karate school or martial arts school really around. And I started wrestling at 9. So I was pretty young. Okay.
I was into pro wrestling. I was really into pro wrestling. Junkyard Dog, Andre the Giant, Macho Man, The Ultimate Warrior, Hulk Hogan. Like that was my era.
Yeah.
And then I was in school and I had a cousin. My dad's cousin had a son. I had kids, and we were in the same age, right? Me and his name was Brett. And he would come to school, and his older brother was wrestling for the high school team. And he would come and tell me these stories about the wrestling matches. And the way he told the stories, it sounded like pro wrestling.
Uh-huh.
You know, like, oh, well, this team did this and the coach did this. And then the fans were yelling. And I was like, oh, wow. I was like, they do this in high school? I was like, this is amazing. So I talked my mom. I busted my mom's balls for like weeks. It's like, you got to let me go with Brett to the school. You got to let me go with Brett. So like we would just jump on a bus. Like after school, I'd jump on a bus and ride over to another school. And that was the school. I had a junior high. And the coach there let any kid who wanted to come to practice. It was a junior high. I was in the 4th grade.
Oh, okay.
Right? He would let anybody come wrestle. He had kids younger than me coming there and wrestling. And it wasn't technically allowed, but nobody really knew. It was like, don't ask, don't tell type of thing.
Yeah.
But he was building up the young kids for a stronger high school team. So everybody was cool with it because, you know, everybody was behaved and in line and there was no trouble. So, you know, and this is the days before cell phones or tracking people or whatever. Like you just disappeared into the ether.
Yeah.
You're supposed to be at this school. When it was time to get picked up, I would go to the payphone and I would do the collect call thing and say, Mom, pick me up.
Yep.
And then she would come and pick me up. And that was how we did it. But I went to my first practice and I realized, I was like, oh, wow. I was like, pro wrestling's fake. I was like, it's completely fake. And
I like the term scripted, but that's because I'm a pro wrestling fan. But
yeah, but I was pissed. I was really pissed.
Okay.
I was wounded. I was wounded by it.
Were you?
And I had a bunch of those like rubber WWF action figure dolls, you know, the bendy ones.
Yeah.
I went home. I had like 4 of them, and they were like not cheap. You know, my mom was kind of pissed when I did it, but like I went home and I cut their dicks off.
What? Wow. Okay.
Because I was like, you're not men, you're liars, you're fakers. I cut them off. I threw them in the back of my closet. I was done with pro wrestling.
Yeah.
It's over. And I've been over it since. My mom kind of was worried because she's like, what's wrong with my son?
Yeah.
She found a bunch of wrestlers in the back of my closet with their dicks cut off.
That's fine. You know, my son, so like I am a pro wrestling fan. I was into it back in the 80s too, back in the Hulk Hogan days. And then I got out of it in the 90s, going through high school, stuff like that. I thought it was kind of silly, and you know, but when I was in the Navy, during the Attitude Era, it was like really big on my ship, and it was like an event every Monday night. And so in our birthing week, I got back into it. I ended
up tolerating it a little bit because when I was in college, wrestling in college, I had teammates who were really into it, and Monday Night Raw, they're always watching Monday Night Raw and Goldberg and whatever. And there was the video game that came out, and that was just what guys were doing. I didn't like it, but it's just like, it was just on.
Yeah.
So like, I kind of knew who the guys were and what was going on, not necessarily by choice. It just was like, that was just what was going on.
But the funny thing is, so I raised my kids watching it, and my son saw that they were offering wrestling at his middle school.
Yeah.
And he initially came up to me and he was like, Dad, they're doing wrestling at the school. Can I sign up for it? And I go, it's real though, buddy. Like, this isn't like what's on TV. You know, I just want you to know that. And once he knew that, he was like, oh, I thought it was just like you. I thought it was what's on TV. I'm like, no, this is real. You know, but he decided he didn't want to do that.
There was a wrestler back in the day in college, Damian Hahn, who's really good. He wrestled in Minnesota. I think he was an All-American a couple times, but he was like that too. I remember he had a story about how he was all hyped up to go in and do his first day of pro wrestling class or whatever. And it was not what he was expecting. But like he, you know, like me, he stuck with it, fell in love with it. Because it's like the idea of what pro wrestling was before I found out what it was it's like two guys squaring off and like settling it. Like, okay, we're going to see who's tougher. Yeah. We're going to see who's better. We're going to see who wants it more.
Right.
Like, that was very appealing to me because I was into football too and into team sports. And no matter how hard I played or how good I was or how perfect I was in the game, other people could still break down. Other people could still mess up. And that bothered me because I was like, man, I'm doing everything right. and this guy is too lazy to pick up his block. He didn't want to pick up that block, or for whatever reason, so we lost the game. That you know, it's very frustrating.
Yeah. With wrestling, it's like, even if your whole team doesn't do well, but you did well, it's like, yeah, okay, well, I did my thing.
Yep.
So that makes a lot of sense. So it sounds like, so there's guys like Bobby Lashley, Brock Lesnar, Matt Riddle that have crossed the lines. So you would never do that. You would never get into pro wrestling, you think?
If I'm gonna get a concussion and my neck messed up and slammed on the ground, it's because I'm gonna have the opportunity to hurt you. Like I'm not gonna let you slam me for fun.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Right. It's like, if you're gonna slam me, if you're gonna knock me out, if you're gonna hurt me, it's because you earned it.
Okay, I think that's fair. What did you think of CM Punk's venture into MMA?
Man, we could go in such a rabbit hole of the exploitation that surrounds the sport of MMA, because MMA is not a sport. Everybody is confused, and they've been lied to by promoters for a long time. The structure of sport, you can't have the conflict of interest that exists within MMA. Okay, you have promoter controls exclusive contracts and the title. Okay, which means they control the ranking and they control ascension to the title. That's not a sport. Like, you can't have the person who's financially vested in who wins or loses control who gets the rank and who gets the fight for the title.
Yeah.
It's basically pro wrestling. They have a pro wrestling business model. Okay. And pro wrestling, again, it's scripted. Before they knew it was scripted, the US government actually sued a pro wrestling promotion. I think it was AWA or something like that. I can't remember, 50s, 60s, because they broke that rule. They had exclusive contracts and they controlled the title. So the US government said, nope, that's a antitrust violation, right? You're a monopoly at that point, because there needs to be a free flow of competition in sport for it to be an actual sport. So that means if I beat somebody and I have a ranking, that ranking guarantees me competition against people of similar ranking.
Yeah.
Well, if the next guy ranked to me is in a different promotion in MMA, I can't compete against him. That blocks the free flow of competition. It also blocks the free flow of competition from promoters, right? So the UFC owns the highest title in the land because they bought up all the competition 10 years ago, right? They bought all the top contracts. They bought the top titles. So they're the only top title. So other promoters can't compete with them. So you could have a guy who's number 2 guy in the world who could win and be the champion, but he's in a different promotion, so he can't even compete against the UFC's guy.
Gotcha.
That stops the free flow of competition.
But boxing's different, right? Because a boxer can have boxing,
titles. and that's why this happened in boxing. In the late 1800s, the U.S. government came in and stepped in and said, "Hey, like, promoters, you can't control the title anymore." Okay. So the government gave the title control over to the state athletic commissions.
Oh, okay.
And that ran for a while, but they realized that became a monopoly also because other states couldn't compete with the more populated states because the bigger states had more money. So anybody who wanted to put on a show had to do it in that state to fight for that title. And it was New York at the time. So if you were a promoter in Tennessee, you couldn't compete for the top title because the top title was in New York. So all of the fighters would migrate and go to New York. There was no way for you to compete for that title. So what they did is they created a sanctioning body license, a third party. So they had a third party controlling the titles that were not tied to any state. So every promoter could compete for that same title.
Gotcha. Okay. Why do you think that MMA hasn't gone with that model? Is it just because of the money?
Because the Fertittas and the UFC, they knew the boxing game and how to monopolize it, and they paid the right politicians to allow it to happen.
Interesting. I did not know that.
Yep. There was a moment where legalization was going to get voted for, where the UFC was trying to get the athletic commissions to certify them as an actual sport and oversee them the way they see boxing. When that vote came up, when that came to a vote, the original owners of the UFC, SEC, they were the guys who did all the work, made all the paperwork, did everything to get it to that point, to it being a sport. When it came to the vote, it got voted down and nobody could understand why. A few months later, one of the Fertittas quits the athletic commission, turns around and buys the UFC, the defunded UFC, with his brother. And they hired Dana White, and then they started this monopolistic nonsense.
Okay. Wow.
Dirty pool.
Yeah. Well, that's how people get rich, though.
The Fertitta, the Fertitta's brother, the Fertitta's father was a casino owner and runner who got his money from some strange land dealings and stuff in Texas. And he was very good friends with Harry Reid, who was senator of Nevada. Yeah. Harry Reid was good buddies with John McCain.
Gotcha.
Really good buddies with John McCain.
Okay.
Dirty pool.
It really does pay to know people.
It does to know people. It does. Really does.
Okay, so I got it wrong clearly in the beginning. So Wikipedia just says that you had a welterweight championship from the PFL, but you're a 4-time champion.
So I won the belt for PFL. Then I defended it against Jake Shields, and then I technically defended it the 3rd time. Yeah, and I say technically because the promoter, this is another like BS thing because of the structure of the sport. Okay. The promoter got bought. The World Series of Fighting was the promoter name.
Right.
Okay. World Series of Fighting took on new investors and they changed the name to the PFL.
Right.
So I was still champ when they did that. And then my next fight was a 5-round fight. They called me the PFL champ, but I didn't have a belt. They didn't give me a belt. Right, because it was a new organization, and their new organization structure was you had to win a tournament to be the champ.
Okay,
so it was like a placeholder fight. It was the last show before they started the tournament system.
Yeah. Okay.
So technically, it was a defense. So that's 3, and then before I got into the UFC, I won an 8-man tournament in Mexico. So I'm the MMA welterweight world champion of Mexico.
Oh, okay.
And that was an 8-man tournament. I fought 3 men in one night. I finished all of them.
Oh, wow. What was that like? I mean, that must have been fucking grueling as hell.
Crazy, dude. Crazy. You got lumps on your shin.
Yeah.
And like you're trying to ice things and like stay warm. And it's tough because like, every little bump and bruise just gets 10 times worse as you're cooling off in the back.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, did they also have to fight other people too, or is it
like? Yeah.
Okay.
Everybody started off with 16 guys and worked our way down.
Okay.
No, 8-man tournament. It was 8-man. There was 8 of us, and we had to fight our way down to the final fight. Luckily, though, it was a really cool. I liked this style. It was they allowed us to wear wrestling shoes in the fight. Mm-hmm. They allowed knees to the head on the ground. They allowed soccer kicks, and they allowed elbows. So that is more of a pure fight to me.
That's real blood sport.
That's the real. I wish we could. I would love to see a organization pop up. No gloves, no shoes, knees to the head on the ground.
Yeah.
Soccer kicks, elbows. Let's fight. I'd like to see the headbutts come back. Let's see what a real fight does. Let's see what really works in a fight.
Doesn't
people want finishes? People want brutality. Do that. Take away the restrictions.
Doesn't Ken Shamrock have some kind of bare knuckle promotion that he's doing now?
I don't know if he's doing there is a bare knuckles fighting championship right now.
Okay.
That I watch a lot. It's a lot of fun. They're fun.
Okay.
It's just different, man. It's just different. When you watch somebody get hit and knocked out in a bare knuckle fight, it's different. You'll see a guy get hit hard and wince and then back up and then he just takes a knee. Because it's like because you're hitting with like those 2 little knuckles.
Right.
That's what you punch with. So when you get hit with that, it's like getting hit with a ball peen hammer in the face.
Mm-hmm.
It's a different feeling.
I learned that the hard way about which knuckles to
break. Boxers break.
Yeah, because I broke my hand here in junior high. I punched a kid. I had a roll of pennies in my hand. Punched this kid, but I hit him with the small knuckles and I broke my hand in 2 places.
Yep.
And I was in karate at the time, and my sensei's like, "Yeah, that's why you punch with these 2 knuckles, you idiot."
Yep.
I also got
100%.
I also had to sit out of karate for like I think 2 weeks because of that. Because he was very big on fighting for self-defense.
Yep.
And I basically just like cold cocked this kid just because he.
So that's what I focus a lot of my energy and attention on now. And I get in arguments with people because they're trying to like square up and box people in the street. I'm like, you're an idiot.
Yeah.
I have a gentleman's disagreement with Christian Tate. He had mentioned that, I had said wrestling and jiu-jitsu were the best for self-defense. That's not exactly right. I said grappling is the best tool for self-defense, because if you're far enough away to throw punches at somebody, you're far enough away to create space and leave.
Okay.
Right? Why are you squaring up and fighting somebody? There's literally no reason for you to like, okay, I'm going to trade and exchange punches with you, because it only takes one punch to knock you out. And when you're not gloved up, like in boxing, the better boxer, the better technical boxer generally wins most of the time.
Yeah.
Right. I'd say 60 to 75% of the better boxer usually wins. It's less of a lucky knockout punch. In MMA with the small gloves or bare knuckle, that's not the same. It gets closer to 50%. Whoever lands that first clean punch wins a lot of the time.
Yeah.
You don't want that to happen in the street. You get knocked out. Who knows what happens after you're knocked out? On top of that, in this day and age, if you get in a street fight and you square up and hit somebody and you knock them out, they could fall, hit their head and die. You're going to prison. Doesn't matter what happened before then.
Yeah.
At some level, you're going to be held responsible. Or you hit that person and you get sued. You have a lot of legal issues to deal with when you're throwing punches and kicks at people, when you're knocking somebody out. So I say grappling's better. You force clinch. If you're backed into a wall, if you're backed up somewhere where you cannot flee, you can't escape anymore, you got to force clinch. Take control of the situation. If it is multiple attackers, then you do need to be mobile, and sometimes hitting them as they're coming at you, you need to do that. But you're not going to stand and square up and fight. It's I'm retreating, bump, I hit you once, I retreat, I hit you again, retreat. You're trying to get away. You're less likely to get in trouble in that situation too, because it's 2-on-1, 3-on-1, 4-on-1.
Yeah.
That's easily arguable. It's like, man, I was fearful for my life. I didn't know what else to do.
Yeah.
And in this day and age also, you're going to be recorded no matter where you're at. Everything's recorded.
Yeah. Speaking of that, so I put my daughter in Taekwondo when she was little. She was in elementary school, and I really liked her sensei at that school. He used to teach the kids, when you're putting your hands up, like your guards up, he's like, put your hands up like this. He called them peaceful hands. And you say, hey, 100%. I don't want any trouble. I don't want any trouble, but your hands are up in a guard.
I called it, you create a barrier. Okay?
Yeah.
A lot of people, there's a famous door guy from England who came up with the term the fence.
Okay.
You need to create a fence. Sometimes you can use other obstacles or objects around you to create that fence or that barrier.
Yeah.
If you're out in the street and you can walk the other side of a car, you can walk around a light post, you can walk around a garbage can, put something in between you and that attacker.
But his thing specifically with the peaceful hands is that people are watching, people are filming, and if your hands are up like this, you don't look like the aggressor. But if your hands are like this, you look like the aggressor.
100%. That's what I teach them. It also depends on situational. Like, are you out on the street and a homeless guy walks up to you? You're like, hey, what's up?
Right.
If you're at the bar, you're at the club, you're at a concert. One of my clients I work with, he goes to a lot of sporting events.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's a little different. If you're getting, physical or whatever, like sometimes it has to be more subtle. Sometimes you just are like, excuse me, what? I don't understand what you're saying.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying.
You got your hands are up in front of you. I call this proper hand position. Your hands are up and your elbows are in front of you.
Yeah.
You've created a barrier in between your soft inner belly and your hard elbows. Okay. You want to keep people on the outside. So you need that. So I can be here. I can do this. I can, there's a lot of different things I can do with my hands up and disguise what I'm doing with my hands, but I'm in a ready position. But I don't want to escalate, because a lot of times people just want to be heard. They're having a bad day. They're emotional. They want to yell. If you get aggressive on them, you escalated. So I advise you want to be in a defensive position, be like, excuse me, I'm sorry, I didn't mean any harm. I like your shirt. You try to de-escalate the situation.
Yeah.
They start yelling at you. A lot of times the green amplify works great. Like, sorry, yeah, you're right. You know what? I'm stupid. I'm retarded. I don't know how to drive. I'm dumb. Thanks for telling me. Thanks for letting me know.
Yeah.
I'll make sure to stick my head in the toilet later. Whatever. Like, they're not used to that. People want to feed off your energy. If you take that energy away, it creates a vacuum and they deflate. They're not ready to cross that line.
Yeah. Yeah, that's actually a really good thing to say. I think there's a lot of like macho guys in the red pill space.
I got to defend my honor.
Right.
He said something about my hair or my shirt, or he looked at my girl's butt, or like you're gonna fight every person that looks at you or says something. Like, you're gonna end up in jail. You're gonna end up jumped. You're gonna end up stabbed.
Yeah. We live in a very litigious society. If you don't go to jail, you're gonna get sued. It's not worth it.
And in this day and age, the legal system is protecting the criminal more than the victim.
Oh yeah, especially if you fuck them up.
Well, there was this viral video recently of a guy pulling a hatchet out of his bag and hitting shit in McDonald's. The guy was in New York. The guy got arrested. He was processed and released.
Really?
He's on the street again in less than an hour, probably, maybe 2.
Why was that? Do you know the backstory on that?
That's the video was, there's some arguing. He got in somebody's face and he hit somebody, and then 2 guys started hitting him. They're kind of puny guys, didn't do any damage. He walks over, takes his bag off, reaches in his bag. Everybody's standing around like dumbasses, like, oh, I wonder what he's going to get in his bag.
Yeah.
Like, nothing good. Run, get out of there.
Yeah.
Like, I thought he was going to pull out a gun and shoot people, but he pulled out a hatchet.
Yeah.
Let's go around and breaking windows, hitting tables.
Oh, wow.
Crazy. If you're not aware, the laws in Illinois are changing drastically for 2023. Right? They're not going to hold people for bail. Like, they'll process you and release you right away. And that's an issue, like second-degree murder. If you skip bail, like, they can't go after you for 48 hours. Like, the cop who was reading off the list, he was saying you could drive almost to Alaska in that time.
Yeah.
So you could be arrested for second-degree murder. They don't keep you overnight. Like, they process you, they let you go. You're supposed to come back on your court date. You skip town, you leave. They'll never see you again.
Is it because like the jails are overpopulated, or is it because of the police state and defund the police type thing, and police are brutal and some kind of liberal bullshit like that?
I'm put on my foil hat.
Okay.
But I believe that it's because they want to create so much conflict and so much unrest that people are begging and cheering for the robot dogs with the guns and military type policing. Like, tanks, lockdowns, social credit score, everybody's phone is being tracked, curfews, all that stuff.
Yeah, that actually does make a lot of sense.
If they can make the environment bad enough for people, they don't feel safe at all, they will beg the government to do that. Yeah. Look at the people still wearing masks.
Yeah. Take my guns away so that I'm protected. Yeah.
Yeah. Take all the legal gun owners' guns away. Get the robot dogs on the street with machine guns on their back. And then you're going to have private security forces all over the place. All the rich people will have their own private security.
Yeah. Oh, of course. Rich people, they have different rules.
Yep.
Yeah. So going back to your fight record, Wikipedia says you have 8 losses.
Yes.
So I'm the kind of person that looks at winning and losing like winning or learning. From your losses, was there one big learning experience you had, or that you can go back to and go, I remember I lost this fight and I will never do this again?
Well, there's 2 main ones.
Okay.
The Johnny Hendricks fight. I lost, I say 3. Okay. So, the BJ Penn fight, I went vegan before that fight. I lost like 10 pounds of muscle. I was looking for an edge. I was looking for something. I didn't know. I was trying to figure out what everybody else was doing that I wasn't. Turns out they were doing steroids. I went vegan. I lost a lot of muscle mass. I started getting injured. I drew with BJ Penn. That threw my career off a lot because UFC didn't like me. They never liked me. The only thing that kept me at the top was that I won all the time. So when I got a draw, they used that to say, oh, he's done, and try to push me under the rug. I also got injured, so I was out. I had shoulder surgery that I didn't really need, and I rushed back sooner than I should have. And the next fight was Hendricks. If you look at pictures of my body before that fight, I looked horrible because I hadn't lifted or done anything to put muscle back that I lost from being vegan. And I was coming off of 9 months of surgery and rehab on my shoulder. I should not have fought that fight. First day of sparring, I sprained my MCL, like bad, like 2nd-degree tear. And I couldn't wrestle the whole camp. I couldn't do much that camp. I could box. That was about it. Box and cardio. So I should have pulled out of that fight, but I was stubborn. I was like, I just got to get back in there, beat this guy, and then I'm fight away from the title again. I should have taken the time off, right? So veganism, not taking the time off when being injured. I should have pulled out of the fight. It hurt my knee, should have pulled out right away.
Okay.
Part of that was, I needed money for my house and whatever stuff. Not being too prideful to ask for help from people. I think that's another good lesson from that, because I probably could have got a loan from my manager or even my parents to cover a mortgage for a little while until I got healed up and then started another training camp.
Yeah.
But then the next big one was Damian Maia fight. The week of the fight, like a Wednesday, I got fucking really sick. I tried to make it, I believe, like, oh, I'm fine. I rested Wednesday and I took some medicine. I just slept all day and I woke up on Thursday. I started feeling okay. And then Thursday night's when I start my weight cut. So I started my weight cut Thursday night, felt okay, did my weight cut Friday morning, made weight. And then I started rehydrating and eating. And I just noticed that I was not like feeling good. Like I felt like I had a 500-pound gorilla sitting on my chest. Like I was wheezing everywhere. And I was not in a really good place with the UFC. Like we had a very contentious relationship. So I'm sitting there in the morning before that fight, and I'm just like, I can't do this. I can't do this fight. I'm not physically fit to fight. And I was like, but if I pull out today, if I call them and pull out today, they're going to ruin my career. They're going to bury me. They're never going to let me do whatever, So I was like,
do you think do you think that was true though?
In a sense, probably. Yeah. They would have called me all kinds of horrible things.
Okay.
Yeah. Cause they've done it to other people.
Okay.
They did it to Jose Aldo because he broke his foot or ankle, and they're like, oh, he's lying and he's a pussy and he doesn't want to fight anymore. What are they going to do to me?
Right. Okay.
I didn't get them into Brazil and make them billions of dollars like Jose Aldo did. So, I decided to fight sick, and the whole fight, I was just like, if I can just hit him once, because there was a fight where, Maia got hit once. It was knocked out very quickly. I think it was Mark Hort fought him, but it was a 1-punch knockout. I was like, I can just do that. So that's what I'm thinking of doing the whole fight. So I end up, fighting, and I don't end up landing anything. I'm just so slow and sluggish, and he's able to get to positions and get to my back at certain times. And I was able to fight off every submission and fight out of positions okay, but it was like slow-mo. I was in slow motion. Trying to do everything, and it's just, there's no go. And it was like a day later they called my management and had released me from my contract.
Gotcha. Okay.
So I was going to get fired anyway. So it's like, they're gonna screw you anyways. Take care of yourself. Promoters aren't your friends.
Yeah.
Look out for yourself. Always be looking out for yourself. You're number one. You're all that matters.
So if you back out of a fight, obviously you lose money because it's like you don't get paid.
you put in 2 or 3 months of training time. You put in the money to train, but if you pull out of the fight, you don't get paid.
You don't get paid. They don't get paid.
Sponsorships aren't going to pay you.
Yeah.
You don't get paid for showing up. It's just,
This fight is like pro fighting then very feast or famine type living.
Yes, and that's on purpose. They do it on purpose.
Yeah.
Like they specifically space your fights out to starve you. That way they can force you into shitty contracts. Right? Because what they'll do is they'll hold that bout agreement, right? You sign a promotional agreement for so many fights in a certain period of time. And they'll I'm sorry, where did I go with that?
They're spacing your fights out.
You need your bout agreement, right? So you have a promotional agreement, and then you get the bout agreement for when they actually offer the fight to you. And that's the opponent and the date and the weight and all those things. So you have your promotional agreement, and then you're stuck with them. You can't go anywhere else to make money. You have to make money with them. They'll wait until they know you're broke before they offer you the fight. Okay. So they know you're starving and they're holding up this piece of meat and they're like, hey, we got to fight for you. It could be the worst matchup, the worst date, the worst location, the worst everything.
Yeah.
But like, you don't have a choice because it's like, okay, I can turn this down and starve. And then they'll screw you. Like this matchmaker back in the day, Joe Silver, used to tell people, like, you can turn down the first fight, but I guarantee you're going to hate the second fight. He's talking about the fights he offers you.
Okay. Because he's going to basically give you a shit sandwich.
He's going to give you the shittiest possible fight he can. He'll put you on the undercard so nobody sees you, and he'll give you the toughest guy no one's ever heard of.
Oh, okay.
Right. So like if you lose to that guy, you're garbage and your career is done with them.
Yeah.
If you beat the guy, no one cares.
Right.
And then nobody even sees it because it was on the undercard or something.
Yeah. Okay. God, yeah, that is pretty shitty. That's
yeah. They're shitty people. 100%.
So, well, let's change gears here then. So, I mean, obviously, everybody in the manosphere says it's important for a man to know how to fight. So I'm a pro Second Amendment guy. You know, I often see pro gun guys saying they don't need to fight because they have a black belt, 12 gauge or whatever. What do you say to guys like that?
If you don't know how to access your gun quickly under duress, and you don't know how to keep it when in a grappling or situation where somebody grabs you, like, you're just giving somebody a gun. You're giving somebody a weapon. Same thing with knife. If you have not trained like religiously in accessing your weapon and using it effectively, it doesn't matter. Guns aren't magic. It's not like a magic potion you drank.
Yeah.
I've got my gun. I'm all safe now.
Yeah.
No one can touch me. It's not a laser gun, right? You don't shoot them one time and they disappear.
Right.
People take time to blow out. I do these learn to fight videos I put up on YouTube and Rockfin, and they break down like altercations. And one is guys trying to rob this like cash money station, something like that. The guy's sitting talking to a teller at the other end. There's a security guard with a gun at the other end, right? Out of nowhere, the guy jumps up and starts running over to the security guy to shoot him.
Yeah.
The guy was unbelievable. This guy was Superman, security guard. Pulled that gun, fired one time.
Yeah.
He got one shot off, hit the guy in the neck. Okay. That guy that got hit in the neck fired like 5 or 6 times. He hit the security guard like 5 or 6 times.
Yeah.
Before he bled out. Okay. Guns aren't magic.
Right.
If that guy could have had a knife, that guy, could just be strong. Who knows? Maybe you didn't hit him into something where he's going to bleed out fast.
Yeah.
And now he's choking you or elbowing you in the face until you're dead while he's bleeding out.
Yeah.
Guns are not magic. And then weapon retention. You pull that gun out and somebody grabs a hold of it. Do you know how to keep it? There's something called the 20-foot rule. And that 20-foot rule is basically the idea that you could have your gun on you ready to fire. And you need at least 20 feet separation between you and that other target to pull your gun and fire one round before that person gets to you. If they decide to come running at you. So you can do this. You can get like a foam, like Nerf foam thingy with your buddy. You get like an airsoft or even a Nerf gun. Okay. Have your Nerf gun in your holster, your pocket. And then you say, go draw it and see how many times you can shoot that guy before he hits you with that foam thing.
Yeah.
Right. And the same thing, like, it's not laser. It's not a laser gun. They don't disappear and dissipate. Right. Like, you hit them once, it doesn't mean they're dead.
Yeah.
If they've got a club or a machete, they can still get to you. And most people aren't going to be ready. 20 feet, that's pretty far away.
Yeah. Yeah. When I was in the Navy, we used to say that like deadly force was authorized within 20 feet because and also if the guy's bigger than you and at all. Like that guy could beat you to death with his bare hands. Like deadly force is authorized and stuff in a situation like that.
And then I mean, people they don't train it. Like if you don't train it, if you haven't trained a situation where somebody's coming to run at you or somebody's trying to grab you or jump you, like you're not going to be ready. If you don't know how to create and keep space and maintain space, if you can't frame with your arm while you're searching for your firearm to shoot, like how do you expect to do that? It takes training. It takes a lot of training. Like even if you go to a weekend course where you're putting in like an 8-hour day or 16 hours in 2 days, it's not enough. It's not enough.
Yeah. On top of that too, like I know Marines that like they've been shot and they're like, they've been shot. Like they're still alive, you know? It's not like you one shot, one kill for most of the time, especially in a duress situation. Like you said that security guard shot.
Guns malfunction all the time too. Like how well do you take care of your gun? Like if you never had your gun misfire, if you never had a malfunction, like do you know how to clear a malfunction? What if you get that one shot off and you get a stovetop? You're like that's when the casing gets stuck in the whatever where it's ejecting the case from. You get stuck in there. You can't shoot the gun again unless you clear it. Do you know how to do that? I'll carry a gun. I don't need to know whatever.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, you know what's happened to me too, just out in the range. It's not like I'm getting in gunfights or anything, but out in the desert close to my house, I go shooting all the time, and I bought some Russian ammo for my one of my pistols, and it got hot and expanded in the barrel. And like it didn't fire, but just got jammed in the barrel, and like the slide wouldn't close all the way. And so it's like I was like, fuck, I had to like disassemble that thing and like pop that bullet out later.
100%.
But I mean, like that could happen in
and if you haven't trained, you wouldn't understand. Like we did a lot of stuff. We were just using airsoft. Okay. And you're like, oh, well, it's a toy. It was like, I mean, it's still a machine. It still has to function. You know, it still misfires.
Well, in karate school, we used to have wooden pistols and stuff.
But I mean, like the airsoft, you actually have the mechanics of racking and shooting, and so you get it kind of accustomed to that. You can use sim rounds, paint rounds too. I've trained and we've used those before. What they use in the shoot houses and stuff. So it's like, I mean, man, if you're not training that stuff, I'm sorry. It's like it's no different than doing karate katas. And never hitting somebody and never sparring. If you're not even drilling, you're just doing the katas in place. I
gotta tell you about that.
What do you think that's going to do? What do you think that's going to do? Most of these guys who have guns, they go to the firing range and they bang, bang, bang.
Yeah, they're standing there in perfect situation.
They're not moving. They have nothing coming at them. Like it's just not. It's not realistic. Sorry.
I go to the kata thing though. I had my son in a local Japanese style karate school here in my small town, and they only train katas. They'll train katas like every week. Their class is like basically a weekly class, and every week he's there for an hour just doing katas. Yeah. And I'm sitting there going, he had one.
I mean, it teaches discipline. It teaches some physical fitness, which I'm okay with.
Yeah.
But if you're not sparring, if you're not using your techniques under duress, it's garbage.
Yeah. And one thing I learned, I was in Kempo. I did Kempo for a while.
Kempo is nice. Kyokushin and Kempo, where you're actually like sparring and hitting each other and kicking each other.
Yeah. One thing. One of the instructors there said, and I always thought it was hilarious because I've done Taekwondo and karate and stuff like that, and it's always the same. Like you have like your front stance and your back stance and stuff like that. But when you're sparring, everyone's like on the balls of their feet. It's like, it doesn't matter what style you do. It's always the same. Yep. But I have one question here, and I'm hoping you could settle something for me. So Jack Napier, Jack Napier.
Yep.
He and I go back and forth a lot about running for cardio. Are you for or against running for cardio?
Run for fun, not for cardio.
Okay.
Not for fitness. The longer you draw out the cardio session, the longer chance you have to get injured. If you're going to jog for an hour, like there's more likely that you're going to pull something, sprain something, twist something, stress fracture in your foot and your shin. I don't recommend it unless it's something that you do for fun. If it's something that you do, like some people like to ride the bike for long distances, some people like to run far for long distances.
Yeah.
I don't recommend it. When it comes to fitness,
yeah,
you can see lots of fat marathoners. There's lots of chubby marathoners. Look at the guys running the 100, 200, 300, 400 meter races in high school and the Olympics. What do their body types look like?
Yeah.
They're lean. That's because sprint cardio burns fat at a higher pace. It raises your metabolism, keeps your metabolism high for up to 24 to 48 hours after you've done the workout. And fighting in particular is a series of short sprints. It's not a marathon.
Gotcha.
You need to do HIIT training for fighting, HIIT training for fat loss.
Okay. Jack's laughing right now. I'm sure if he, because I do like
jogging and running.
Yeah.
Walk your dog, 20 minutes of walking a day. Everybody in this country, 70% of the people are overweight, right? Every one of them could go for a 20-minute walk a day.
Sure.
Okay. If you're lifting and doing other hard cardio sporadically in those days, like still hit your 20 minutes of walking. I have a dog that helps me get my 20 minutes a day of walking.
Yeah. Yeah. Dogs are great for that.
Yep.
My dog's getting a little bit older. I used to take her for a 2-mile walk every day. And that was just a little bit of extra, to help.
My dog is huge. So if I don't walk him, he shits in the house, and that's a big problem.
Yeah.
When I do walk him, his shits are so big,
yeah.
I end up doing a farmer's carry on the way home because the bag of shit's so heavy.
so you get a real workout.
Yeah, so I'm like working my core out, like working grip strength. So I got to hold it out. It smells. He's 125, 130 pounds. He's a monster.
What kind of dog is he?
Presa Canario. It's a Canary Mastiff.
Oh, Mastiff. Okay. Yeah, those are big ass dogs.
They look like the Cane Corsos, but he's more athletic. Way more athletic.
Okay. So one last question here, and then we can wrap up. So I checked out your Gumroad courses mainly because I'm trying to find. I spent a weekend with Aaron Clary like a week or two ago, and he and I were talking about online courses and stuff. And I was like, I'm just looking at platforms right now, and so I was like, oh, you know what? Jon's got some Gumroad courses, but so I was looking at your Gumroad courses. You have lots available. Which ones are your most popular?
Well, because the fitness is the easiest thing to get people to do. The fitness ones. Actually, the neck care guide was actually a really popular one too.
Neck care.
I have a neck care guide, 90-day neck care guide called Fit Your Neck.
Okay.
Because I had to almost retire because I had stenosis in my neck, the soft tissue is broken down, and the vertebrae are starting to pinch the nerve.
Yeah.
So I get tingly, numbingness in the hands and all kinds of issues. So I went through this 90-day program to help fix my neck. It allowed me to fight 3 more times when I was told I needed to retire and I needed surgery. I still haven't had surgery. Still doing okay. Still keeping up with some of the stuff from the program, but like that program really helped. So I end up just doing the program and putting it together so everybody could see it. Because I got my problem from getting hit in the head a bunch of times, like a chronic whiplash. That was why I have my neck problems. Like even shooting double legs and hitting the double leg and your neck getting snapped back, or your head getting shoved down into your chin, into your chest. That's all stuff that's very common with the career path I've chosen.
Yeah.
But your average person is on this computer screen or on their phone like this all day long.
Right.
Kind of like a. So like they have the same type of issues and pain. So that's a good program for anybody with that. So that's actually a very popular program. But the fitness stuff tends to translate better online, especially with online consultations. It's hard to walk somebody through technique.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How does that work? Like if someone wanted to hire you to learn to fight online, do I mean, you give them some videos, maybe like this is how you do that. Do you ask them to film their stuff and send it to you so you can say, change this, tweak this stance? Like,
well, best thing to do would be to, book a consult so I could go through and answer questions like that. Yeah. And, I have some, like, I like to film my seminars, and then I put the seminars up for people to buy and watch. But the best thing to do is to, private lessons, one-on-one, face-to-face. Group lessons actually are the best because it's small. Having extra people there brings the cost down. And then you have a partner that you can work with after the fact, and you can help each other. Like, how did that thing go? Oh yeah, I remember. This is how it went. And then I do seminars. I travel for seminars.
Okay.
But I'm still trying to kind of work the kinks out on actual technique through the screen. It's not an easy problem to solve.
Yeah, because I was wondering about that. Like, you can learn some basic stuff, I think, online, but you really need some practice in person. Like you said, sparring.
You have to have a buddy, because even me telling you, I could tell you how to do it. I'm like, okay, that's right, that's good. You have to do this with whatever. If you don't have a partner, if you don't have a buddy to do the stuff with, like, you can't do katas with,
right.
with the techniques we have. You need a partner. You have to have somebody.
Yeah, I gotcha. It's a good place to start, though, I would say.
Yeah. I mean, it's supplemental, because a lot of people are going to have their local gym they go to.
Yeah.
And then you can get supplemental techniques. I think that's what's best. You can learn the technique, and you can go through with somebody who's your friend and learn those things and try them out. Smart.
Very smart. Where can people find your Gumroad courses?
If you're following me on, Twitter is johnfitch.net. Instagram is johnfitch smash. Johnfitch.net is my website. If you go to any of those things, you can find the links that will take you to the Gumroad course and all my other stuff. I got t-shirts for sale also.
Perfect. All right. Yeah. Usually I wrap up asking people where people could find you online. So we answered that question. So Jon, thank you for taking the time to sit with me today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. It was fun.
Yeah, anytime, man. Jon, thanks again for joining me, man. I really appreciate it. You're welcome back anytime. Fascinating conversation. I really like our discussion about self-defense and the peaceful hands, and you're talking about keeping your hands up, right, in a ready state. That kind of stuff is super helpful. I think a lot of people that don't know how to fight, that have never had any kind of formal fight training, that kind of information is just super valuable. So yeah, I'm really, really glad that you were able to come on the show. At the time of this recording, I don't know if this is going to happen. This is something that, it's been on my goal board for a while though, right? Like I've talked to everybody on the Rule Zero panel except for Troy Francis and John MLD, who just at the time of this recording just said that he's no longer doing Rule Zero. But I've had on my goal board here to be at least a guest on Rule Zero. And at the time of this recording, maybe about a week, maybe 2 weeks ago, Rollo tweeted out. He replied to one of my tweets. I was joking around with him because I sent a super chat to one of Rollo's things and one of his live streams, and he read it out loud. He was like, "Hey, come on, man. I can't remember your name for whatever reason." I was just like, Rollo can't remember my name. So I put that on Twitter, just a picture of a knife with a heart in it saying when Rollo doesn't remember your name during a live stream. Well, Rollo replied to that and said, "Hey, I'm actually going to invite you to come on Rule Zero. So I'll learn your name then." So that was really, really a cool tweet because I've had it on my goal board for so long. It's the raindrops thing that I talk about in the Law of Attraction episodes. So I haven't gotten any word on that yet, but I look forward to talking to all these guys from Rule Zero that have been on my podcast. I look forward to talking with them on Rule Zero whenever that happens. And at the very least, if it never comes to fruition, at least Rollo put it in a tweet that he was going to invite me on. I mean, that feels good. it's almost like I feel like I've made it in this manosphere space when I get stuff like that. All right, I'm going to stop nerding out. I'm going to talk about the Patreon again real quick. Patreon.com/ComeOnManPod. There's 5 tiers available. The lowest tier is only $5. If you want to help out the show, if you want to help support it, you want to get me in front of more men, that's the best way you could do it. It's like the price of a cup of coffee every month. So $5, it's the least you can do. So patreon.com/ComeOnManPod for that. There's, like I said, there's premium tiers that if you want, help with dating apps, you want to, improve your texting game or whatever, you can sign up for one of those top 3 tiers and I will be available to help you with that kind of stuff. Also get on the email list.comeonmanpod.com, get some free stickers. That's just so in case I ever get banned again from another social media account like I did last year with TikTok, I can get a hold of you and say, hey, this is where you can follow me now. But yeah, that costs you nothing. There's no postage with that. I cover all those expenses. I just want you to get on the email list. All right, guys, that's all I have this week. I think this is the Thanksgiving episode. So if that's true, have a happy Thanksgiving, and we'll see you next week on Monday.
This has been the Come On Man podcast. New full episodes served hot every Monday morning on your favorite podcast platform of choice. So subscribe now. Follow Paul on social media. The links are in the description. Now, go out and get it.